Welcome back, everyone, to episode 3 of the crypto.news podcast/show.
No, the crypto.news podcast/show. That's
This
the
week,
unofficial
who do we
name.
have?
We have Dave Hendricks, the CEO and founder of Vertalo.
Interesting guy. A lot of background in asset management software. Talked about being blockchain agnostic and regulated by the SEC. So how do we get those real world assets on chain? David Hendricks should tell us. Stay tuned for part 2. But let's go into the hot headlines this week. Shane
But first,
Copeland.
hold on. We have to introduce ourselves. What if people are listening in for the first time?
Well, maybe it's the third time if they're following the show, as they should be. Everyone should go from episode 1, where we had David Shee from Manifold Markets, a prediction market, in fact.
And speaking of prediction market, our friend Mr. Copland from Polymarket. Copland from
Shane
Polymarket.
Rated by the feds.
No longer has a phone. Actually, he does have a
phone.
phone, but not his old phone, which was now confiscated by the FBI.
So he was rated under suspicions of accepting U.S. bids on his decentralized betting marketplace.
Correct.
What are your thoughts, Tony Noto?
Well, as we were talking before we hit record, Shane Copland, he is innocent until proven guilty. He was not arrested, simply had his assets confiscated,
Searched.
and seized. And I'm just surprised at the selective outrage that's going on in the country now, where with all this talk of weaponizing the justice system, people are upset when the cops go after the people that they like, but they're not upset when the cops go after the people that they don't like. It's just selective outrage. And
are you selectively outraged that XRP has hit new all-time high?
I am not. I think that's pretty cool. I think that Bitcoin, everybody talks about Bitcoin, the rally that we saw in the past couple of weeks, but it's nice to see Ripple enjoy a little growth. Yeah.
Merge. Ethereum next, maybe. DevCon is, this week. A lot of news that I've been seeing on X come out of Bangkok. Let's build. Let's put some of these chains to work.
Well, what is DevCon? Explain it for the folks who don't know, like me.
DevCon is a big trade show. It's a big conference for people building on Ethereum. There's a lot of people there from Vitalik to CZ.
CZ shows up. He's going to show up.
He was at a DeSci event with Vitalik that I saw photographed last week. One of the big narratives I saw coming out of DevCon was, around how can we scale around decentralized science? What does decentralized science mean? Can we put health data on chain? What does it mean when we're looking at different forms of scientific applications on a blockchain? So speaking of decentralized science and different assets and things of that nature we can put on the blockchain, next we have David Hendricks, CEO of Vertalo, who has put everything from Warhols to horses on chain with his software that he licenses out to different enterprises. So stay tuned for part 2 with David Hendricks to see a lot of how real world assets are developing on chain. Welcome back to part 2 of the Crypto News Show with myself, Dorian Batitska, and
Tony Noto.
David Hendricks is with us for the second half of this show. He is a founder of Vertalo, which is a real-world asset tokenization platform founded in 2017. Thank you for being here with us, David.
It's great to be here, guys. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Beautiful Saturday morning here in Austin, Texas.
Oof.
As it is here in New York as well.
We have a gray grim in Paris as always.
Gray.
The baguettes are hot. David, can you walk us through a little bit about your background, how you got involved in the industry, real world assets, and a bit about Vertalo?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have 2 hours for just the intro session, so I'm going to try to compress it for you. Started programming when I was a teenager. Uh, Studied something completely unrelated in college, and I went to work for Arthur Andersen right out of college, accounting firm which got killed in Enron. And I was like, it was late 80s, and I was like the only guy who knew computers and networks and stuff. So I became a computer consultant and a networking consultant for a large accounting firm. Not an accountant, doing accounting software stuff though, and doing really interesting things with computers. Spent 5 years doing that, and then I bopped out with a bunch of folks who had left Accenture, which was the consulting arm of Anderson, and we went to work for a Goldman Sachs joint venture to unwind the savings and loan crisis. This is called the Resolution Trust Corporation in the mid 90s. And so I got really early into the use of databases and securitization in real estate, like in the mid 90s. I built networks. So I was a technologist. I'm not just like a CEO guy. I was a technologist, programmer, database designer, and I developed databases for liquidating real estate assets, securitizing and liquidating real estate assets in the mid 90s. I did that for a while. That thing kind of finished up when we resolved the crisis, and I went to work for Oracle. And at Oracle, I ran the worldwide relationship between Oracle and Arthur Andersen, accounting firm. So database and accounting. After Arthur Andersen got assassinated by the Congress in about 2000, I started getting into CRM and email. So I was a principal, a co-founder, senior executive at the top email and CRM companies, something that was no one understood. Just like crypto, like people didn't understand the importance of email and identity. Okay. And it was the hardest thing in the world for years until it was easy to convince CMOs to get behind email as an identifier. Okay. Just like you think about a WorldCoin or you think about a wallet, email is the same thing. Okay. And after the last company I co-founded, took that from 0 to 100 million. A company called Live Intent just exited a couple of weeks ago for 250 million bucks. Great outcome for the company. I left it in 2016, and I used my secondary, okay, the shares I sold to start Vertalo in 2017. The first thing that I worked on, I think, is relevant to this world today. I was building a due diligence platform using Ethereum smart contracts to connect organizations and the people that worked for them. And my last company was my first customer because we had diligence issues in our Series D. In 2017, I wrote a yellow paper and a white paper, September 2017, thinking, oh, we're going to do an ICO. Well, my SEC lawyer co-founder said, no, we can't do an ICO. And my law firm, Lowenstein Sandler, said, you can't do an ICO.
Why not?
Because they thought it was an unregistered securities offering. Okay. So, I got a co-founder who's ex-SEC Division of Markets. He wrote Regulation ATS. Okay. That's what T0 is under. That's what all these alternative trading systems are under. He knows the securities laws. I got law firms telling me I can't do an ICO. So in October of 2017, when everybody else was like starting to queue up ICOs, we started our work on launching one of the very first security token offerings. And we set up Vertalo as a subsidiary of my holding company in Cayman Islands to do a Reg D and Reg S. We did that very, very early, maybe the third. It was a Reg D, Reg S, 108-page PPM. It was a total failure, like abject failure, guys. Like no one in March of 2018, wanted to buy a tokenized security with a year-long hold. Okay, no transferability and no way to moon it. Okay, but my belief was that distributed ledger technology was going to change finance. And that we had gone through as an issuer, issuing one of these things, and we saw all the problems. And so in May of 2018, I pivoted to becoming a digital asset data management platform to do transfer agency and tokenization. So we went to picks and shovels after that. So I started as an issuer, and it came from personal experience, not like chasing market hype.
In your last blog post, you ask, is asset management the killer app for distributed ledger
Yeah.
technology? And should you still call it crypto? Should you?
All distributed ledger technology uses cryptographic techniques. Okay. But when the distinction that I make between crypto, which could be stuff you build on Base or Solana, which is easy to transfer, they're essentially bearer assets. Okay, that is the techniques to create them. The production of the tokens is similar, but asset management is a totally different thing. And when I talk about asset management, I talk about what the big institutions are doing. You take a look at Franklin Templeton. They just announced several weeks ago that they took a transaction, some transfers. It would cost $50,000 to do, and they brought that down to like less than $10 because they had tokenized the ledger that all these holdings were on, and the processing of those was dramatically reduced. And so I'm one of those boring guys. Like I'm in it for the technology, and I think that distributed ledger technology, which is upstream from tokens. Like you need a distributed ledger and then you got tokens. Okay, it doesn't come in any other order. You have to do that. I believe that distributed ledger technology is the step function massive improvement for the legacy financial system and for asset management. And when I'm talking about asset management, I'm talking about like investment banks and the BlackRocks, et cetera.
Yeah, and it seems to me that there's a potential there for stocks, bonds, stable coins, everything from loyalty points. Um,
Yeah.
Last week, Tether launched Hadron, and it's reported that there's a $6.5 billion tokenization boom for real world assets. Do you think that the next cycle will be defined by real world asset tokenization?
Yes, I do. But what I want to do is I want to broaden the definition of real world assets. That thing doesn't really roll off the tongue. RWA. Today, RWA is mostly DeFi rebranded. Okay, people will stake and they'll get a stable coin or something else. They get yield, and it's really they're really just debt products. Okay, and they're paying yield, and it still requires people to have a certain level, like technological competence, and it's very exciting. And today it is dominated by smaller independents. And when I say small, they might have 100 million, they might have 500 million, they might have a billion, even 10 of assets which have been pledged or staked, for which they produce a stable coin or some other receivable, some other instrument.
What do
I
you
think
think those
that
big instruments are? Are they stocks? Are they bonds? Where are we seeing a lot of the capital flow in RWAs?
It's
none of it
probably
is.
bonds, no?
Yeah,
And real estate.
it's all essentially bonds. It's all essentially debt instruments. Okay, that's why they can spin these things up, because debt is not regulated like securities are, and so none of these are secured assets. They have no security interest, which is why they can spin up so well. And I think they're doing great, but I think that there's a lower ceiling than what that market wants. And what a lower ceiling means is that the big guys, the big girls, the big firms are not going to send their investors over to these RWA platforms. Why would they give their IP, their investors, to these RWA platforms? I think that's still going to be a degen thing for a while, because what we produce at Vertalo is institutional RWA platform, one that could be implemented inside of an institution so they can produce their own RWA products. The economics don't work, and the data leakage problems are problematic for the independent RWA platforms. They're great. Ondo, Maple, Superstate, they're great. Okay, fantastic. But the big banks, the big institutions are going to want to issue these things themselves. And the current
So how does
RWA,
Vertalo make money in that case if you're giving away all these RWAs sort of, if you're giving away your own IP to them, how do you make money?
I'm a software company.
So
I
you're
actually, yeah, my thing is pure software. I don't create products. People use my platform to create their own products. I mean, I already have 100,000 investor accounts on my system. I already have 150,000 security lots custodied on my platform. I probably have more clients than most of the RWAs, maybe even combined, on my system. That system was built over years with over 100 clients, like issuers issuing RWA, so that it was tested to scale for institutions. And institutions want to control this. They want to make sure that their fees are as high as possible, and they want to make sure that they don't lose their clients to the RWA platform. So actually, they're going to need to defend themselves against the RWA platforms and their high yields by creating their own products.
But wait, who are your clients? Would you be able to reveal any, or are you tight-lipped
Oh,
on that topic?
no, I'm not tight-lipped. I'll give you two examples of names that folks will know, the ones that are of note.
Please.
Sumitomo Mitsui, banking corporation in Japan. We've been working with them for 2 years. They
Wow.
actually built a Japanese language version of Vertalo using our APIs. We taught them in 6 weeks. You can go look it up online. I mean, that's a real thing. Marathon Digital Holdings, the largest public Bitcoin miner in the United States, they
Yeah.
built their layer two to tokenize to create real world assets on Bitcoin. They built that on the Vertalo system. Okay.
I have to imagine these big companies want to poach you, no? They
Mm.
want you on their team. How did you manage to stay independent?
So, being a smaller company, some people want to just buy engineers, okay? But up until now, uh, there wasn't a lot of M&A in our space because there was a lot of uncertainty in our space. And I think that the events of the last several weeks are going to open up the floodgates, not just for us, not just for Vertalo, but for a lot of other companies, because now the institutions see that there's a lane here to go and build these businesses because the SEC and FINRA are possibly going to be a little not even forgiving. They'll be like, oh, okay, you're just using this technology to create an investment product, and like it goes back to the crypto thing. This isn't like some scary crypto with rug pulls. I mean, this is like boring database stuff to create investment products and increase efficiency. I mean, I think that the next couple of years, I mean, I've made it through almost 8 years waiting for this month, okay? Building for this month and next year. So what's going to happen for us? I don't know. We'll see. I'm, you know,
Are
in
you are
my
you are
business,
you bullish on this kind of Trump trade of look, Bitcoin has hit over 90,000. Are you sort of bullish on this the new regime?
I'm absolutely bullish on it because, um, coming from the earlier kind of technology era, imagine if we made TCP/IP or which is how packets are transferred, or we made SMTP, which makes emails get moved around. Imagine if we regulated those so much that no one could use them. If we had done that in the 80s and the 90s, we wouldn't be the leader that we are now. We would be true third world country. Our leadership in personal computers, in building out networks, in email and social media, all those things which we did, both hard science and also this protocol and these standards that we dominated and the companies we created through our venture capital and entrepreneurs, we have to do that again. Okay. And this is, the, financial, industry, like large financial firms. This is the biggest business in the world. It's all the money. Like,
Yeah,
how come don't we want to win that? Yeah.
Dave, can you talk a little bit about security and the importance of that? I mean, I imagine that there's a lot of security infrastructure that needs to go into these things, especially when you're dealing with, assets, whether it's real estate or bonds. But can you talk a little bit about the importance of that for Vertalo and how Vertalo assesses security risks and
And,
hacks and things?
and not just that. I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of ties into your past experience with the savings and loans scandal of the
Mhm.
80s and 90s. I mean, are we in the Wild West now with crypto? Because, I could easily see people taking advantage of this new technology and almost having like a high tech version of the savings and loan scandals from back when I was a child. Like, but I'm reading up on it and learning about it now. But are we sort of like in this Wild West, which kind of ties into what Dorian was asking as well?
Well, I'll get to Dorian's question in a second, but I'll tell you that that Resolution Trust Corporation thing that I did in the mid '90s was fixing that S&L loan crisis. So those loans, however, what really spurred that were personal guarantee and unsecured loans made by savings and loans to real estate developers and their friends, and that was a real Wild West, and there were a lot of there were a lot of bad actors. Now, I don't think that that will ever go away. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be people that are going to want to game the system, or they're always going to want to do deals with buddies. There's always going to be, kind of, wink, wink deals. I'm not in the business of trying to be the Boy Scout white hat on that. Um, but I do believe that that security. Let's go back to the concept around security as opposed to securities. Our system was built with this called thing of separation of concerns, and it's a very high security system. That's our third party system. So if you go and you want to use us in a SaaS mode, we can just be the data manager, and we can be the transfer agent, which is SEC regulated. But what I decided to do like 4 years ago was start moving us towards institutional on-prem, meaning that our system, and maybe Vertalo may be the only digital transfer agent and tokenization platform that can be implemented inside of an institution. So they don't have to worry about my system being secure because it's inside their perimeter. And this security gets back to that RWA issue. Part of the security at these institutions is not having data leakage, meaning they don't want their investors. If they've won an investor, they don't want to send them off campus. The big institutions will create their own securely create their own RWAs using platforms like Vertalo, and they will QQQ. Okay, they can create mutual funds of different RWA products that are offered by the current platforms. It's not an either or, but the big institutions have hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of clients. They're not going to send those out. So what security to them is their customer list. And we don't have to worry about the technology because our technology is just inside of them, like Oracle. I mean, I'm much more like Oracle than I am like an RWA platform because I'm soft.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, and in terms of some of the other clients who you provide software for, are there real estate entities? Is anyone involved in like jewelry or collateral of different liquid assets of that nature? Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
who are some of your more interesting
you're
users?
gonna love this one. We fractionalize racehorses. Okay, so yeah, so one of our clients, myracehorse.com, and you might see them on Twitter. Like you might hear about them around a derby or
Let's
something.
shout them out. Shout them out. What's their handle?
Myracehorse.com at myracehorse,
Com.
and what they enable is the fractional ownership of racehorses.
Because they're
Okay.
very expensive to breed and to maintain and to train and
Yeah.
to use, right? I mean, these things cost millions. I've seen The Sopranos. I remember when
Oh
Joel
yeah.
bought one.
Oh yeah.
classic.
Oh yeah. I mean, I tend to want to talk about the ones that are super public. We've brought on over 100 different clients over here, all different types. I started Vertalo Real Estate in 2020 because, and I continue to believe that real estate, especially in the next 2 years, there's going to be a lot of
What about
defaults.
internationally? Because I first heard about RWAs, yeah, I guess around 2020, 2021
Mhm.
when I was in Dubai, and a lot of these real estate agents were saying, "Yeah, don't worry, you can buy in crypto." It seemed like such a wave back then. But do you have any clients like outside of the US? Like, do you work with people in in other countries of
Well, he works with in
Well,
Japan.
I mean,
Japan? Yeah.
yeah, I probably spent 2 months in Japan
Wow.
last year. This is one of the top 50 banks in the world.
Yeah.
We've
Mm.
got one of our earliest clients was Mount X Real Estate, Mexican real estate fractionalization.
Wow.
We built the system so that it would be jurisdictionally agnostic, structure agnostic, blockchain agnostic. We tokenize on multiple chains, and really asset type agnostic. Like we don't care if it's debt or equities. It could be art. We had a really cool client called Freeport that got a lot of news last year. They were tokenizing Warhols, but they ran into some problems. They built a whole gallery system to fractionalize and tokenize Warhols on our system, and unfortunately, they went to the wayside, not to the Freeport.
That was my next question, Dave,
Yeah,
because we have a Q and a with you on crypto.news that I did with you
yeah,
last year when we
yeah,
talked about the tokenization of artwork.
yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about these Andy Warhols and the problems they ran into because I think it's underreported.
The one of the biggest problems in this industry is people trying to do too many things. Okay, and it's very important to be good at something and really do that. And with us, that's software. Okay, we don't issue our own things. The problem that, and I don't want to call them out too much, but the problem is that if you're trying to build a platform and you're also trying to which they were doing, it was beautiful, but you're also trying to create investment products, you have a swivel seat problem. Okay. And what I've found is that bankers are good at banking, lawyers are good at lawyering, um, and software developers are good at developing software. And you basically have to choose your lane. And I think what they found was that they had the instruments, but it was expensive to build an experience around it. And so, and what we do, we kind of square that circle is that because our platform is API first, people can use our system to build experiences on top of it. They can build it into their legacy, or they can just use our APIs and they can build their own screens, their own user experience without having to build the software. And so too many
And
people are trying to do both things, build software and create instruments.
these instruments that are deployed, are they seeing yields now? I mean, like, do you think, are you bullish on like some of these maybe startups that are starting to use your technology, and are they seeing yield in whatever they're building? Are you noticing an upward tick in that?
Well, here's the thing. When you go and sign a license with Salesforce.com, Mark Benioff doesn't call you and check on your sales pipeline. Okay. Like, you'll get a client success manager who helps you use the system, but they don't typically drill down into your business results. I'm a technology. Okay. I try to be as, I try to help them be successful with the technology, but I can't get into their business metrics. A lot of our folks have been successful and some of them haven't been. And I try to make sure that what I provide is not a hindrance. Okay. But we don't even diligence the actual offerings because we're not a broker dealer. We're not a investment or capital formation like advisor. We are a technology enabler. And so,
But then,
you
why did you need, aren't you SEC registered?
Oh yeah, we're SEC registered as a transfer agent, which means that we are the
Oh,
steward of the data.
okay.
It's different than FINRA. So FINRA regulates broker dealers. Those are people who do diligence, broker dealers, and then they offer products. And they're usually representing that, yeah, we've done the diligence. This is real, and and this is we've done our paperwork. those are clients of ours. The broker dealers bring data to us. They're doing all that diligence. I am so picks and shovels that most of the time, the way we choose clients, we don't do any outbound marketing. It's all inbound. We've had over 1,000 companies come and want to work with us. We've only taken about 100 because we thought that those teams were solid, and they also help us build the platform with their requirements. We did it completely different than anyone else. We didn't imagine it and build it. We crowdsourced, collaboratively filtered what our platform needed to do with our clients. What we care about is that the clients come to us for a particular capability, that we can offer that capability. And when we build it with a client, every other client gets that capability.
What about some of the like tokenization efforts I've seen around different RWAs? There's Rexus Finance that is using blockchain technology to simplify asset management, and the tokens are theoretically giving the ability to trade assets and precious metals. Have you considered like a sort of tokenized offering of Vertalo?
Yeah, we actually did a tokenized offering of Vertalo in 2018. That's what we did. But because it wasn't at that time, no one wanted invest in those things. We kind of sunsetted that. I mean, let me go back to Hadron. To the Tether news. I mean, because we could talk for hours about these things. I thought that was an amazing signal. But what people don't understand, that tokenizing assets is a lot more complicated and at the same time very simple. The first thing is distributed ledger technology. Distributed ledger technology is at the core. That is what Vertalo focuses on. We use distributed ledger technology to manage information, and then what we do is that creates tokens, which are restricted based on the issuer. These other things, like these precious metals, like people create all kinds of tokens for all kinds of things. And creating the token is so simple, but I liken it to the act of conception. Okay. The act of conception only takes a couple of minutes. Okay.
And by conception, you mean like, what do you mean?
Yes. I mean,
I think of conception.
The conjugal act.
Okay.
The conjugal act that created
outline it for everybody.
The conjugal act that created all of us who are talking now and watching this took minutes, maybe an hour, but it took minutes. Okay. But then it's a lifetime after that of managing that ledger. So think about, one of them's tokenization and the other one's ledger management. Okay. And I'm like, I manage everything that happens. I also do the conception part, but it's not my child. Okay. But I have to manage the child. Okay. Yeah. You get it? So everyone focus on the token part. And I'm like, yeah, that's the fun part. We're in the stewardship. Like, you got to raise them, got to make sure.
You see everyone who says RWAs can't be sexy. On that note, David Hendricks, CEO and founder of Vertalo. Thank you very much for your time, sir. It was a really interesting conversation. Yeah. Anything to add, Tony Noto?
Just that I hope Dave comes back again. This was a fun, informative conversation. Please visit crypto.news. Check out our Q&A with Dave. It's very evergreen. The stuff that he talked about last year, the trends, we saw them play out this year. Well, maybe just one more question.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 minutes, Dave. Tell us what your predictions are for 2025. What do you expect to unfold? We're going to have a new SEC chair. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a revitalized crypto market, it seems like. What are your expectations?
So I think that the recent, the election results happened in the right time of this year to influence planning in larger institutions for next year. So I think that to some degree, the handcuffs come off for institutions to get involved. So I think you're going to see a lot more institutions do things like what BlackRock did with BIDL, I think you're going to see a lot more of that. I think that you're going to see lots of things, lots of coins moon, and I think you're going to see lots of them swoon as well. I don't think that it's sustainable to go crazy for a while. I believe that the Department of the Treasury, Congress, and the SEC are going to relax things, but I don't think that they're going to relax things so it's such a big pendulum swing. So I think that as exuberant as people are, it might be slightly irrational right now. I think it will get to rational exuberance, and I think we'll see RWA is going to be extremely big. But the thing is, it's also going to be much more institutional. So it'll be boring to some. But for software builders like me who enable that sort of thing, I think it's going to be 2025 is going to be a very exciting year.
Excellent.
David Hendricks, thank you very much. Have a great day.
You guys are great. Thanks for having me on. Talk to you all soon. Chain-enabled.
Chain-enabled.
.substack.com. Chain-enabled.substack.com.
Thanks,
See you.
Dave.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.